A little known fact, because it's something that I've been embarrassed about my whole life, is my career in journalism started out at In Touch Weekly, which is like a celebrity tabloid magazine. What happened was I met one of the editors when I first moved to New York at a party that I had crashed with a friend of mine, because we were poor and Moby was having this party. This gives you a sense of the time that I'm talking about. Moby was having a party, and we had crashed it. And through eating one of like Moby's vegan hot dogs, I told this guy I was a journalist, and he thought because I had crashed the party that maybe I was like the kind of adventurous journalist that In Touch could use. And I really needed a job, so I took the train 2 or 3 days a week all the way up to the George Washington Bridge, and got on a bus to Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, which is where the office of Bauer Publishing is. And you could sort of tell by all of the like Sex and the City flowers and the high heels, like who was going to Bauer Publishing, which I came to call the place where dreams die, which is really snotty of me, but Bauer's motto was literally "We think popular," and there was a trickle-down sort of situation on the bus. The bus was like a school bus. Like there were popular people, and if you worked at like J14 or like First for Women or like God forbid one of the soap opera magazines, then you were really uncool. But if you worked at Life and Style, which was kind of like the fashion magazine, or In Touch, then you were kind of cool. And the coolest reporter at In Touch Weekly was this girl, Jackie. And Jackie was like basically the tabloid version of a war reporter. Like she had like seen some shit. She had been like out there, and she would like roll into the bus and like take off her giant sunglasses and like with her like morning show makeup, and she'd tell you about like how she'd been like stalking somebody from like Survivor at Marquee the night before, and gotten this like really valuable piece of information. Jackie had once like sat next to Sienna Miller while she was yelling at Jude Law on the phone for like an hour before they noticed, and she was kicked out of the Thompson Hotel. She had famously hung on to the door of Britney Spears' SUV and like been dragged for, legend had it, like miles just to get an answer to like how Britney really felt about Crimea River. She was like really in it, and like she was really good. I was not that good. Jackie would never. What I did was I like followed Jennifer Aniston into the bathroom in a movie premiere and like creepily like sat there and like listened to her pee, and like then like endured this really long like hand washing session, and like totally failed to ask her about like how she felt like her first Christmas after Brad and her empty womb. Total tabloid fail. I was not good at it at all. But In Touch kept me anyway, and they gave me like softer jobs. So I would just call publicists and ask if their clients were pregnant, if they looked a little bit fat in a photo, or there was this really great section called "Is It True?" And you would call and be like, "Does Reese Witherspoon like really feel like she's being haunted by the spirit of June Carter Cash?" And they'd be like, "No," and you were like, "Great," and like reporting had been done, and like you still got to print the rumor, and it was like a win-win for everybody. It's a really good situation. My favorite thing to do though was the up close section, which was basically In Touch's version of Stars, They're Just Like Us, and you would get this stack of celebrity photos, and you'd have to write captions for them. And I got really good at writing captions that utilized like a quote from a magazine interview that the person had given previously. Like, if there's a photo of Jennifer Connelly on the subway, then I'd find like a Vogue interview where Jennifer Connelly was like, "I like the subway," and then the caption would be, "I love riding the subway," says Jennifer Connelly, as though she said it to In Touch, even though she didn't. And my crowning achievement in that was, there was like a photo of Jennifer Lopez in giant earrings, and I found an InStyle quote where she said, "A day without earrings is a waste of a day." It was like a beautiful, lovely moment. I was really proud of that one, so thank you. Anyway, where am I? Sorry. I sort of like was reading all of these celebrity interviews. I would go deep into LexisNexis, and I internalized a lot of the, yes, I'm dating it again. I internalized a lot of the stuff that these celebrities told their interviewers. I noticed that they gave a lot of wisdom to, they would say these kind of like platitudes that were, kind of interesting, and I found myself pulling them out in my real life to my friends, like when my friend was getting broken up with by her boyfriend, I like pulled all these quotes out from Jennifer Aniston's Vanity Fair interview, where I was like, you know, to live in a victim place is to point the finger at somebody else, like you don't have a say in it and all of that stuff. And you know, when my friend was complaining about her mom, I would say like Drew Barrymore, who had a horrible childhood, just said like, you know, I just like don't cry about it anymore. I just say these are really interesting cards that I've been given. So celebrities were really, they were really wise. You know, but I still, every time I did it, I was like, oh my God, I'm in way too deep. Like this is stupid. I don't want to be doing this. Like, I want to be writing these long, muscular Esquire profiles so that I can beat my ex-boyfriend at life, because that's what he does. Yeah, so eventually I did start getting more of those jobs and doing more of the stuff that I wanted to do, which was like, you know, more important stuff. I got offered a job in a magazine that encouraged like ruminative Esquire like pieces, and I left in touch, and they were so nice when I was leaving. I mean, this is the thing is also they were like lovely people. They were like lovely, cat-loving, like nice people. They were just like the warmest people, and I thought they were so weird because they would have these editorial meetings where they'd be talking about like, you know, Jennifer and Vince, and like, did Vince feel bad that like he didn't measure up to Brad? And it was this whole like, you know, thing where we talked about them by their first names, and they were like the soap opera that we watched, and I thought it was so weird and creepy, but they were really nice people. So yeah, but I was like acutely aware that everybody in the world thought that tabloid people were horrible, and I just wanted to get away from it. Like it was like the early 2000s, and it was like Princess Diana was still pretty fresh, and like it was like Al Qaeda and tabloid reporters are like the worst people in the world, basically. The paparazzi. Anyway, so fast forward to like a few years later, many years later, and I work at another magazine, and I've done a bunch of other interviews, and GQ called and asked me to interview a celebrity. And I went, and because I wanted to write stuff for GQ, because I still wanted to beat my ex-boyfriend at life. And I went and I did the interview, and it worked out like pretty well because I wasn't really afraid of celebrities anymore because I had another life, and it was just kind of like a fun thing that I was doing on the side. And then they kept giving them to me because once you can like conduct yourself appropriately in front of a celebrity, everybody's like, okay, you're like cool, so you get to do some more of these things. And I would do them, and it was always like kind of like I said, like a palate cleanser, like between doing like serious things. Like you could fly to LA and like talk to somebody for like 2 hours about like life, and it was very much like the stuff that I read in Touch, where you would have this like weird like sort of philosophical conversation with a stranger. And that was partly because they don't actually want to give you personal information, so they speak in total platitudes all the time because they don't want to end up like my visual thing that I have. Like, do we have it? Like that. They don't want to end up like one of those people. Because, so they speak very generally. So you end up in this like weird like therapy session, writing down these like kind of vague platitudes. But it was kind of fun. I was always walking away with like some kind of like fortune cookie wisdom from a celebrity that I could apply to my life. Salma Hayek was really good. I walked away with like marriage advice and like a recipe and like skincare tips. Matthew McConaughey is of course like the philosopher king of our time. He told me that he had 821 aphorisms, bumper stickers, and truths and rhymes that were written down in notebooks. I was like telling them all like immediately. It would take too long, but the best one that he told me is get relative, and he was talking about how he had lost a lot of weight to be in Dallas Buyers Club. And I can't do the voice. I really wanted to find the recording, but it was too hard. But he said like, when I was sitting there, I was saying to myself, this is not a good Matthew McConaughey voice, I'm sorry. I was sitting there and I was saying to myself, you're not in a concentration camp, you're eating food. It's just small amounts, but you're not starving. So F you, McConaughey, I got relative. Like, so it's like, I started to apply them. I was like, get relative, like, you know, just like get relative. So, even if it was just like Adam Levine saying like, it's so good just to take as many huge bites out of life as you can, like, because you're gonna die someday. I was always like, yeah, you're right, Adam Levine. Like, I kind of felt it in the moment. But you should, fuck a lot of models. As soon as I got home, I would kind of shake it off, and I still thought it was dumb and it wasn't my real life. It wasn't important journalism. But then like last week, I was at a friend of mine's house, and she had been going through a really hard time at work, and she had a quote taped on her refrigerator that was from Kate Hudson. And it said, this is the bit that was highlighted, "The way I deal with anything negative is to surrender. You have to let things go, have compassion, and recognize your blessings. As long as you are living your truth, you're gonna be okay." And I was like, oh my God, that's so funny, because I actually interviewed her this summer, and she told me all of this total junk, like, is on your refrigerator, and like, it was just like complete platitudes. And she was like, yeah, but you know, sometimes you really like need a platitude. Like, you just need like this somebody to say this dumb thing to you, and because it's true and it's real. And she was totally right. You know, for instance, a day without earrings is a waste of a day. And it got me thinking about how I first noticed the platitudes in my coworkers at In Touch, and how I was such a snot about them, kind of weaving together these narratives that were like by Jackie's sources and, you know, publicists and hairdressers. And they weren't doing it in a way that it was all mean-spirited. They were just trying to figure out like life, like how would a person react to this situation? Like, of course Vince Vaughn is gonna feel jealous. He's not Brad Pitt, like, even though he's Vince Vaughn. You know, so they were just trying to figure out like life. And there was something kind of weirdly beautiful about that to me, because we don't have like philosophers, and we don't have really like religion anymore. We don't have village elders. We just have like Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey, and they're here to tell us some truths, and like that's kind of a beautiful thing. So I'm gonna say that like interviewing celebrities is my real life, partially at least. It might even be like the best thing that I do. Yeah, and wear earrings every day. That's